Great reportage by Teslim Ajayi there. He captured, in fact, what we want to do today. We want to look at government policies in terms of welfare, in terms of support, in terms of providing security, in terms of various services that government ought and should provide. And that's the essence of government anyway, and that's why we donated our powers to some of them who now form government, for them to work and ensure that life is better for us. I am involved in an organization now. Some of us have and some of us don't have. Those who have are contributing to support those of us who don't have. Equally, I pastor a church or a parish of a popular brand, and I know that as a pastor, we help those who are needy, because there will always be poor in the land. So we support them, and we get money from those who have and give to those who don't have. That's how it should be, and that's how government should be run. And of course, as if I'm not telling lies or I'm not making it sound somehow, other countries of the world, there is what we call the social net, where you help those who are down the line. There are some that they are entitled to being paid some amount of allowances every month by government, or sometimes every week by government, which you don't have here, which government should look into. Today we want to look at government policies vis-a-vis the people that they say they serve. Are they really serving the people? Or they are there to serve themselves? You see someone whose neck is like that of a Maggi bottle, very, very long and thin and stretchy, within 6 months or so, has developed pot belly, and of course, so fat that he can hardly walk, he can hardly sit, he can hardly get up. Or generally, the women folk amongst them are a little bit better. No, let's leave one of them alone, who became the speaker, and of course, before we knew it, mentioned a scandal, or one of them who was a minister. There are very few like that, but generally, the women folk are more responsible. I don't know why it's like that, but be that as it may, we will now go to the nitty-gritty. Our guest today is no other person than Kingsley Chime. He is an advocate, and of course a human rights activist. Apart from that, he is a developmental expert, and he's someone who is passionate about the development of people particularly. And to that extent, we deliberately invited him here today to give us his own thoughts concerning this issue. You are welcome, my brother.
Thank you so much, Mr. for having me.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, viewers.
You're welcome.
It's nice to be here, and I also want to appreciate the management of Galaxy TV for sustaining programs like this, because one would expect that after the election, voters forum is purposely for the purpose of campaigns.
Yes.
But voters should be consistently be reminded that they also have responsibility beyond casting their vote on election day. So it's an interesting thing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for honoring us too. Let's get cracking. We want to look at this topic, government policy. I'm sure you listened, or you watched, or you listened to the the mini feature by our correspondent, and I'm sure it makes sense to me. Did it make sense to you too?
Yeah, it does.
So in what way does it make sense to you?
Well, I think government is for the people. The purpose of government is to serve the people. Government policy is the response of government to the need of the people. So if policy of government does not address those specific and common needs of the people, that policy has no purpose. So beyond turning out policies by people in government or by government, they should ensure that those policies are addressing the needs of the people at the moment. For the past 1 year, the current government took over the arms of affairs. They have struggled to come up with certain policies, particularly to deal with the economic situation in Nigeria, because it appears that the policy on economy, affects almost every other aspect of the economy. So they have tried over time to see that they stimulate the economy and ensure that investors have confidence, and people also have the feeling of governance. Well, just recently, I think it's all over the news that the president has inaugurated new set of economic advisory council made up of current, serving ministers, and even himself being the chairman and the vice president being the vice chairman and all of that. So I believe that some of these efforts are made towards achieving that purpose of ensuring that they respond to the needs and agitations of the people.
Yeah, talking about the needs and agitations of the people. Is it not possible, because while you are talking and when I watched the mini feature, is it not possible, and my mind went to other countries of this world. I've been to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, 5 of them. That's not that I'm told that they are, and the government automatically give them allowance every month. In some cases, every week. Is it impossible, particularly concerning the harsh economic situation? That's the first leg. Let's assume that that structure is not on ground. I am involved in political activities by virtue of my work, and I know that the politicians, particularly someone like the president, the governor, and all the senators, they all have their foot and leg in the various communities, below. And that's why they say all politics is local. Yeah. To the extent that each one of these people who won an election, they have their foot. And that's why they call them, they are people on ground. Foot, no, not grassroots, but if they want to go deep, they call them foot soldiers. So it means that they have their people down. And to me, because when it comes to election, you say, have you gotten to these people in what, BT? Have you gotten to these people in RN? They have all this nomenclature. So the same thing, now that they're in government, is it now difficult, or is it forbidden that they should they should get to those people who ensure that they got the votes? And I'll still go back to the statement I made last week. Someone like Tinubu ought not to be in the presidency at all. He ought not to be there. If you want to factor in the powers of factor in the powers that be, then. But God is in infinite mercy, and that of the people made him to be president. Then all this committee, all this, I know him. Tinubu is a swift person. He is a pragmatist. So the idea of waiting, putting these things on ground to ensure that people suffer, we want to breathe. People are hungry. I went to the market. Yesterday I was in Ijebu-Ode. I went to the market. It was a market day in Ijebu-Ode. They call it Okeaje Market. And yours and behold, people are just busy shouting. Things are expensive. Oh, things are expensive. Maybe this one I want you people to share to the president. And I want some people to go. Maybe I can't remember. Maybe it's 5 days. Or just go to the market. You are people who are watching, you that are online, social media bots. Go to the market and just take a shot on what is happening and put it online for them to see that indeed people are suffering. It can't continue like this. Government has a policy, must be for the people. It must have a human face, we call it. Not so, my brother.
Not so. Let me make some interventions. Issue of whether the president, ought to be there, or whether he knows, or people should reach out to him. The point is that the economic situation, the penury, the poverty, the anguish, the hunger in Nigeria.
Lawyer, don't come with grammar.
Is visible to
the blind
and audible to the deaf. So there is no gainsaying the fact that there is hunger in the land, and we need emergency situation to be able to stimulate and revive the situation. That is a given. So issue of whether he knows or has foot soldiers is totally material. The question, and the basic question, is the capacity, willingness, and the sincerity of purpose of these leaders to ensure that those policies which perhaps were designed to address the needs of the people are properly implemented. Each time I'm on this studio, I always emphasize the need for implementation, because it is very easy for anybody to come up with a policy. You make PowerPoint presentation. How do you implement those policies? How do you ensure that those people that have responsibility to ensuring that these policies are well implemented, that do their work? Because the truth of the matter is that in our own client, that's in Nigeria, we look at leadership, when people talk about leadership, everybody looks at the president. Much as I agree that the president, the buck stops at his table, but there is other areas of governance. Like we have governors, we have even ministers who are acting on behalf of the president. We have chairmen. Nobody holds these people responsible, accountable. There's an allocation that goes to local government, to state governors, governments every month. Nobody talks about it. They decide, they pick and choose what they want to do with it. Some choose to use it to fight their political enemies at the detriment of the people. With respect to Tinubu, he cannot be in all the states in Nigeria at the same time.
Yes.
What he is doing can only be expected to trickle down to other areas of government, other tiers of government, for them to have a harmony. But what we have in Nigeria is that everybody is busy blaming the president, much as the president cannot exonerate himself from the blames. But there are other people that should also share in those blames and take responsibilities. The president and those working closely with him are fine-tuning, trying all they could to ensure that they stabilize the economy, because as we speak, the economy is in shambles. You made reference to what is happening in the market. It's all over. Nobody is safe. Even those who claim to be rich, they are not safe. You can't make a journey of 2 miles without meeting someone who will be begging you for food. People are no longer begging for money. Days are gone when people, these guys are asked for money, they want to pay school fees. Nobody is talking about that now. People are talking about survival. They will meet you on the road. I want to buy bread for me. I want to eat bread. They are not telling you to give them money to buy bread. So that is how dangerous and how bad this has become. And I believe that the effort of the government is to ensure that these policies they are implementing or they are throwing out should address those needs of the people. Because I looked at the Presidential Economic Council. These people you constituted are already in your government. What are those constitutions you brought them to? What are they coming there to do extraordinary? Because you are there as a chairman, you have the vice president, you have the minister of the finance, who is also the minister of the economy, you have the central bank governor, we have almost all the ministers he appointed. So what exactly is going to change? You also made reference to other countries where they try to make some stimulus intervention in terms of buffers or palliatives to cushion the effect. Yes, that may be good, and I think that this government has also tried to do that in the past. If you recall, there was a time some billions of naira was allocated to all the 36 states of the federation, including FCT, for the distribution for them to distribute to the poor people among them. Now, how do you begin to determine and assess who are the poor people? Even those people who you have given that responsibility to share will also claim that they are also poor. Yes, so that is the truth. So how these monies are dissipated, nobody cares. Nobody accounts for it. That money goes. So in other Senate countries or plans, there may be, they have data. Yes. The people who need this intervention the most. So those things will go to them directly. And there's accountability, there's honesty and sincerity of purpose. But here, our own democracy or government is totally unique.
And the style.
And it's also unique in the sense that our own people are also unique. When you are blaming people are blaming Mr. President or the governor, but I tell you, have thousands or millions of Nigerians. If you place them in that shoe, they will do worse. People are waiting for their own turn to jump, in quotes. So the bottom line is that everybody must take responsibility. The government must do their own part. The people must also do their own part too. Because I recall you said that in those days, there's what the adage they use in my village and my language, there is power in community. People don't pay attention to community lives anymore. Everybody is becoming self-centered and selfish. Days are gone when if you have a problem, you run to your traditional platform, to anybody,
a council, elders,
and support you. Those days are long gone. So now people are now trying in their own personal capacities, just as you mentioned, your own church or where you are pastoring or where you are a leader. You see that we have poor people all over. And in Nigeria, if you classify poverty, almost all of us are poor. When you remove politicians who are earning, who are making money through other means, every other person is poor. So we don't have middle class again in Nigeria. With the current exchange rate, with the current inflation, with the poverty, with unemployment, with insecurity. So we have consistently been admonishing that those who are entrusted in government must ensure that they are there for the interest of the people.
Yeah. You have been entrusted to be there for the interest of the people without any bias, without any sentiment. It's an opportunity. Look at it now. Elections are about to be conducted in Edo, Imo, and Ondo states. The candidates, those who want to be entrusted with that responsibility, are jumping up and down, making promises, struggling, and of course going through thick and thin to ensuring that they eventually win. So winning, after winning, what next now? Is it enjoyment? Is service. Public office is service. Even any office is serving. Even we that we are here is service. It's not convenient for you to be here today. It's not convenient for me to be here today. But to us, we see it as own corporate social responsibility to educate the people on their civic and political rights and their voting choices. And to that extent, everyone has a responsibility to make and ensure that what you have been given to do, you do it well. Because the Bible tells me that whatsoever your hands finds to do it well. That's the principle. And to that extent, my people, we will go on a short break. Ready to crack, and in cracking, we have discussed the committee that Tinubu set up. And really, why we just mention that in passing, I guess we want to look at the governors, and the local government chairman. Because fortunately you are a lawyer, and we know that particularly the local government chairman who have a responsibility by virtue of Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution to relate with people at the grassroots. That is their forte. That is their responsibility. I don't know about you, I crisscross Nigeria regularly. The other time I was in Ifo and Itori last week. No doubt I went for a court session in Ifo and Itori. The road network, very bad. Very, very bad. Let's even leave the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway. Let's leave that one between Ota and Ifo, or even to Abeokuta itself. Let's leave that one. That is a federal road. But there are internal routes, internal routes that have not been attended to. And there are street routes inside Ifo, inside Itori, that are very bad. Obviously, even if it's that, then of course water, which is life, which sustains life, to the extent that we had an outbreak of cholera last month, which should be an anathema in 2024 in Nigeria. And I remember in 1982 or 83, Fela sang that there is cholera that is going to kill everybody if care is not taken by. And of course, government brought a policy, you remember, that in 1990, government was making a pledge that in 1990, that all these things will be a thing of the past. 1990, and that's 34 years ago, if my mathematics serves me right. 34 years ago, 1990. Till now, we are still suffering shortage of water in Nigeria. And that 1990 slogan was a government policy. So what is the problem with us in this country?
Simply put, implementation and consistency. You know, we have a lot of abandoned policies or projects. If you even go, you see federal government projects that have been abandoned for donkeys years. So the governments ought to be a continuum. Government shouldn't be about who was there before me, what did he do. There must be a blueprint. In the next 5, 10, 20 years, this is where development plan, where we should be. Any governor or president that steps in must align with that policy. That is what consistency in policy making is all about. But what we have is that any government that comes on board will jettison what the predecessor has done and decide to begin, in most cases, elephant projects that he may not even conclude before he leave office. So this is part of our problem. There is no continuity in government. There is no continuity in policy. You know, if government said we are going to do aggressive agricultural in the light of the hunger and poverty in the land, okay, over 5-10 years, this is the policy of government to address the issue of food shortages in the country. Now, 2 years down the line, that government leaves office, another one comes in and jettisons it. What happens? That policy dies. So we must begin to follow policies to the letter if it is made towards addressing the needs of the people. So you mentioned, you know, local governments, governors. Of course, local governments and governors in Nigeria, governors have emasculated
the local government
administration in Nigeria. It is a given. So governors, I mean, chairmen are there at the instance.
They are mere errand boys.
Yes, so you cannot even go against the state. So that has also, you know, impeded the development of that governance level. So in fact, before I came into the studio, I was listening to one joke on social media where someone was giving an analogy of what is playing out in Ogun State here. That the deputy governor of Ogun State lives in Ota. That the road from Ota to Abeokuta is bad. So the vice president or the deputy governor will have to route towards Lagos to be able to access Abeokuta. Where if there is a good road, it won't take them some minutes to be able to get. So that is actually the point. So everybody and governance in Nigeria is being concentrated at the center, at the state level. When you look at state like Lagos, which is a cosmopolitan state, you know, it's about industrialization. We have few, you know, areas or lands where you can cultivate products or produce, farm produce. So we have to make do with other states or local government who are that are placed in the hinterland, where governments can say, okay, let us do aggressive. I think I mentioned this point the last time I was here, that we must declare state of emergency on agriculture in Nigeria. Everybody wants to be in the limelight. Everybody wants to be in the township.
Yes.
You know, nobody wants to go to the farm. So government must step in. I believe in the olden days, government will have where they have agricultural produce, where they produce things. We have agri sectors in government. What are they doing? We have crops. Okay, this is the kind of crops we have to grow here for us to feed ourselves. But as we speak, we cannot even feed ourselves, let alone even exporting to earn foreign revenue. Our borders are closed. So it's like a situation where a man is in a house and his house is on fire. And he locks himself and his family up and trying to quench the fire with his urine. That's exactly what is happening. We cannot feed ourselves. And then we went and block our own borders. We don't want some, to bring in something from outside. That means we are running to.
I don't like that your joke.
No, that's exactly what
he wants to quench the fire in a house.
Yeah, with his urine and lock himself up. So he doesn't want external assistance. That's exactly what is happening.
Yeah.
If we cannot feed ourselves, we must create opportunities.
Yes.
While we are making policies that will boost our agriculture.
You see, my pain is the problem, because I go to the rural areas whenever I have the opportunity to be there all the time. Anytime I move into the rural area. Rural area, not the urban, not the state capital. I go to the rural area, places like Egobazua, people like, where is this? After Enugu, there's one town. No, not Ebonyi. One village after Enugu. It just ran off my Achala in Enugu, or there's anyway. I go to some rural areas all over Sabongeri, Samunaka, all these areas I go, and the idea is to get to feel of what the people are doing or they are feeling or they are experiencing. And to me, most of them, there is no government presence, no dispensary. I went to a place called Samaru. Samaru Zaria is the university town of Ahmadu Bello. And you just find out that dispensaries are not there, the water scheme is not there, and people, how do they still dig well this day? And of course, when it's dry season, what you get from there,
distances to get water.
What you get from there is milky water. And why won't there be cholera? If you remember, about 5 or 6 years ago, it took the intervention of an international non-governmental organization to sink boreholes all over Sokoto State because cholera ravaged them that year. But where am I going, my brother, based on what you have said? And this survey, I just want us to look at it. I agree that the people who were appointed by Tinubu to head the economic team are influential people. But these guys are busy. Why don't you have, and they, of course, they are tested. Why don't you have people who are fresh and who are ready to go, who want to express themselves, who want to show their skills and their talent? Give them this responsibility and let them go cracking. Because this is now, they will turn it into a big man thing. Those people will be in the committee. They will, after the committee, maybe they will now get up again after laughter and so on, whatever the budget. Before you know it now, that money is another story entirely. Is it not possible that a new committee be set up to ensure that these people are grassroots people?
Very well. In fact, I love these questions. Let me make this point very clearly. If you look at the constitution of that committee, there are people that came from private sector, somewhere like Aliko Dangote. We have this man from UBA, I've forgotten his name. You know, and when you look at the organization, you begin to think that it is for the interest of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Dangote and the Elumelu, for instance, these are private businessmen. You know, and you know, governance is different from
business.
Yes. So most of these men, they are profit oriented.
That's all.
Whatever endeavor they are getting into is about their own pocket. In most cases, I'm not saying in most cases. So when you bring such people on board, yeah, they may have ideas, you know, but the ideas will be limited to how to enrich their pockets or to expand their businesses, rather than how to, you know, affect lives of the people. So much as the president, in his wisdom, had decided to have these committees, like I said earlier, these committees, majority of them are already in his government. So I don't know what those committees are.
To confirm, sorry to I didn't want to, but I want to buttress this your point. I heard an organization, and we set up committees, and 2 members or 3 members are accountants, and you need to see what they do in the committee. Cut this, no. It's too much, no. You can't do this, no. We say these things are for the people. No. We are not a charitable organization. Because of their professional training. So when we now look at it vis-a-vis their career growth, that's with these 2 guys that you have mentioned, is it in the interest of the people?
So that's the point I'm driving home now. Now, when you look at, because the truth of the matter is that Nigeria, or governance in Nigeria, does not begin and end in a state like Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and a few other states. We have over 28 or 29 of them that are not always in the limelight.
Yes, you go to Kwara State, there is a place called Bodesadu, Sao, and so on in Kwara State. Yes. You see poverty staring you in the face.
So if you are in places like Lagos, you know, in the surface, everything looks good. Everybody's moving up and down.
Wearing fine jackets.
Exactly. So you think that is the reflection of Nigeria. But that is not the true reflection of Nigeria. Majority of Nigerians who are domiciled in all these
rural areas
or states that have little or nothing in terms of IGR, how do they survive? I know some states, you know, I don't want to begin to compare one state or the other. They are predominantly either farmers
or civil servants.
There's no industry anywhere. So when you begin to churn out policies, you know, that has to do with you know, industrialization, much as, of course, to earn revenue for Nigeria. But how would that policy affect the life of someone who is in the rural villages, who doesn't have water to drink, who doesn't have food to eat, who doesn't have shelter, who doesn't have medical, as basic as you know, what they call malaria drugs are. So that is where the problem is. We look at Nigeria from the microcosm of Lagos. Abuja, Port Harcourt, and that is why we are having, you know, rural-urban migration. And people are doing this migration without having anything in mind. When you come to places like this, you settle. After some while, you begin to see that your life is getting worse because places, if a place is too big for you, you don't even know where to start. It's better you go back to your village and begin to manage yourself. So the policies, the point I'm making is that all these committees you have set up, fine and good, they will come up with their own ideas if they have managed their organization or private sector. Well, fine and good, but we must begin to look at how these policies
will be implemented.
Will be implemented to affect the lives of common Nigerians, not just Nigerians in Lagos or Port Harcourt or Abuja.
Yes, you see, as we are talking again, my mind went to Elisha. I was in Elisha about three months ago. Yes, 3 months ago. And of course, I told you, before I get to Elisha, I drove anyway. So there are some parts of the road that one has to go through, some rural places. Stop, it's time for corn. So I bought corn, maize, we are eating. How did you get this thing to this place? Okay, you know, easy. In fact, it is the Okada people. Then it was not easy. No access. God bless you, sir. No access road, but because the farm produce are in the hinterland, there is no access road, and that's why one of the things that makes cost of food items very expensive is that there are no access roads. So you can imagine an Okada would. I now ask her, how do you know the Okada now does it? Unfortunately, my phone crashed. I would have just sent the video, because I took the video of one that was now coming. He said, the man is bringing it in two bags per trip, and it's taking, I guess, 3,000 or 4,000 per trip. Whereas if it's just one trip with a vehicle, he will take maybe 1,000 naira. And if you see a typical vehicle that loads in the rural area, they will put it to the head, including the roof and so on, the boot and everywhere. So where am I going is that the rural areas, the rural roads, particularly farmlands, is it forbidden for government or these governors to look at that?
It is not forbidden.
Then why is it that people in the rural areas suffer? And there are people go to the revenue people go to the rural areas to collect all these various taxes, one way or the other.
All these local government levies and so on. You know, people, with respect to our leaders and governments, they are interested in quick money. They don't want to soil their hands and begin to, they want to ready-made money. Where the one you can just sign, you collect your own money, everybody goes home, waits for next month to share, not bring and share. Nobody cares how we are going to develop in the next 10, 20 or 30 years. We used to have Millennium Development Goals.
No, sorry. Where I'm going is that must our folks who make us, you and I, give us food, must they suffer to bring the food to? You see, it's another thing for them to come in comfort, bring the food in comfort with good roads, and of course they will even tax us.
But we go and get it ourselves.
But you can't go there. Your car will get stuck. I know. I say it's unfortunate.
Trickle down on the prices of commodities.
That's where I'm going.
When you go to markets today, what the price of goods today is not the same when you go there tomorrow. So prices are changing as if it's not.
They are changing wrapper.
It's crazy. So you just go to market and ask how much is this today, because it's on daily basis. So these are some of the contributory factors, and we have emphasized it enough that everybody has a role to play. There's also people who take advantage of difficult situations. They leverage on it. I know some areas where government will even build roads, and you see villagers, they'll go there and spoil it.
Yes.
So that they will be there and pretend that they are filling the place, and collecting small levies or money from people who are accessing those roads. So at some point, we're also victims of our own problem. So we have to, everybody, all hands must be on deck, both the government and the people, to ensure that these dividends of democracy, those the essence of policies of government is met.
Yes. In meeting these policies of government, well, as we round up, can we just look at you mentioned implementation, and where you are talking now, I see the matter of monitoring, because to some extent it's government business, now government property. So Since it's government property, everybody cares less. Fairness in some cases, not that we are here to browbeat the government. They've tried, and we see our people, just as you said, making us to be victims of ourselves. Rails on the roads, electric poles, even, what's it now? Solar lights or street lights that will help us be visible at night. All those things are carted away, not by government itself.
Recently, you saw a video of
Third Mainland Bridge. That was recently. Yes. So if you want to know, is it not madness? Yes.
Sometimes I feel it's madness.
It's
madness.
Some of
these people who engage in this, they need mental evaluation. How can public infrastructure you are removing it to go and sell for how much?
So I want us to look at that in the next 5 minutes. One, monitoring particularly. Is it only government officers, soldiers or policemen that should be on the lookout? Maybe if everybody, because it doesn't happen outside Nigeria, particularly in Europe. Anyone, they are all their brothers keepers in Europe, particularly when anybody is committing a malfeasance, the person who sees, that's why I guess the slogan was brought to Nigeria, if you see something, say something. I guess we should begin to promote this idea. I guess media houses, the social media too, because crime is not done in the secret. It is done openly. But when people decide to look the other way around, then look at the issue. It is true intelligence that those people in Mushin, I'm sure you heard about those that the kidnap gang that was busted. Yes. So can we go that way by government of infrastructure too, supporting government in this regard?
The problem is that much as it's advocated, we advocate that the people should also help the government. But government essentially is for the people. But the point, like, let's use the issue of police for instance. Most times as lawyers, you see situations, circumstances where a crime is being committed or something is being done, and somebody, raises an alarm. You eventually become the suspect. Yes. Instead of being a victim or a suspect for police to investigate. Because the police, in due respect, I mean law enforcement agencies, will leave out the substance and begin to chase to come and
prove now.
In most cases, so people are scared
to go and
of course come publicly and say this is what is happening. People live in compound villages, communities where they know criminals, they know kidnappers and all of that. But nobody wants to talk. When you talk, they will call you to come and substantiate what you have said instead of providing intelligence like you have stated. So it also boils down to our own culture, communal living. Those days where one is you become your neighbor's keeper. Those days are gone. So when we begin to enforce and ensure that, if you report something, if you see something a bit to assist the government, you shouldn't be the victim or the suspect. So when that is done, people will be free to report crimes and all those incidents to the government.
Yes, I guess this area that we have touched is very sensitive to educating our people on their own responsibility to community and to the system and to the government and to the general public, to themselves too, because whenever we do good to the system, to the common good, it is also a good to us. I guess we'll take this one as a takeaway for today. What we'll do is that, God helping us, if my colleague here is available next week, we'll come and trash this second leg out about monitoring and implementing government policies. I guess it's a fallout of today's topic, which is very, very germane. And of course, we want to look at the role you watching me will play. I have to play. I must play. Will play, have to, and must play. Because government is us. You and me, we are government. If you don't play your role, there is no government. Tinubu cannot come to your local area and begin to do things. Even the commissioner of police in Lagos State or in Edo State or in Ebonyi State cannot come down to Ugwachuku or to Fadi or to Okemapu or even Igwebe to begin to do things. It is you in that area, in those areas that I mentioned, that will know what is happening, that you speak out. But again, I agree with what our guests have said, that when you say, are you secured? All those issues are things that we'll look at next week, God helping us. Don't go away. Just ensure that you give us that opportunity next week. We'll discuss all together. Till then, just be on the safe side of the law.